welcome to In Studio. I'm your host, Natasha McKenty, and I'm joined today by Karen Leslie. Thank you so much for joining me for your first time in studio.
It is, and thank you for having me.
So you are a bars facilitator. It's a very new theory to us, and an energy practitioner.
Correct.
And you were gracious enough to host me in your wellness center and allow me to have a treatment with you. So we'll talk about that later, but first I'd really like to get into your story. So I'm quoting, depression, anxiety, anorexia, ADD, OCD, and suicidal tendencies were what controlled you from a very young life. All of those things.
All of them.
And these are your words.
Yes.
Talk to me about how this became your strength and who you are today.
To condense it all, I would say I was aware of all of these things from a really young age, 3, 4 years old. Things started to kick in for me. By 16, I was in full-fledged difficulties and moved my way through into university. Then the anorexia really kicked in at that point. So when I started to want to have children, I realized I needed to do something to change, or this wasn't going to work out at all for me or potentially for children. So I was able to get myself on track and healthier for pregnancies. And then whenever I would then wean my children, I'd fall right back into difficulties again.
Okay.
So a little over 20 years ago, I started to investigate energy work as a way to help myself, to see if I could do something. I'd heard great things about mental emotional care that way. And then there's also a great first aid aspect to it. When you have 3 boys, bumps and bruises and cuts and things are, normal.
Right.
So it was also a way to help them too.
Exactly.
So everything I learned was helpful, but only for a short period of time, and then I would fall right back into one of the difficulties or multiple difficulties until I actually moved up to KW region. And one of my instructors from a previous modality invited me to take a class, and I went just to see her. I was so lonely, and I was actually planning my exit. When we came up here, I was going to get my husband settled in his work, and then once he was comfortable, I was going to leave. And so I went to the class just to see a face I trusted, and my husband picked me up and he said, "How was it?" And I said, "It was awful. I hated the day. I was so upset with it." But I said, "I have to learn this." And he kind of like, "Okay." I don't know what happened that day, but it was the start of me changing. It was the start of a recovery. And then it was about 2 years, because I didn't use all the tools regularly, but about 2 years later I realized I had no more depression, no more anxiety, no more thoughts of suicide. I'd actually decided I wanted to stay. And it's been
So
cool.
you use the term, I knew that I wanted to exit, but what do you mean by that? What do you mean by exit?
I was going to take my own life. Yeah,
And you had already chosen the date.
Yes.
As well.
Yeah.
Was your family surprised to hear this? This is a huge thing to share, especially with a major audience like you are right now. Obviously you've had these conversations with your family before you started talking openly about this.
Yes.
What did they know? What was their reaction?
Well, my husband knew, because I often went to him in tears and crying and saying, the boys will be fine with you. They don't need me. I felt I was being more harm to them than I was being any good to them. When I decided to go public and let some people know and do something for Suicide Awareness and Prevention Month, which is, in September each year, I went to each of my 3 sons individually and talked to them and said, "I don't know if you've been aware, but I've been really struggling. That's now past, and I want you to know, because I'm going to let people know, because I fear that's the only way I can help others is if I talk about myself."
Yeah.
None of them said they knew, but I didn't get a shocked response either from any of my sons. So I think there was somewhere they realized that things weren't great. I mean, it was obvious that I wasn't happy, I'm sure, to them in many times. So they were very supportive. They're really great young men now,
So talk to me about, you say energy work. What does that mean, and what specifically does having your bars run mean?
Energy work is a massive term. It's really, really wide. Most often it's hands-on, where you actually touch the other body. You can do it above the body, and you can do distance as well. But you really just bring universal energy in, and it just kind of moves through me, out my hands, and then your body, or whoever body I'm with, will accept the energy and use it to where it feels it needs. Energy goes to where it's required. The body will direct it. I can have intentions as to what I'd like it to do or where it would go, but ultimately you or the client will decide what will happen. There's thousands of different modalities and ways of doing it. I'm a Reiki master, and that's what most people recognize, is Reiki as an energy process.
It's easy to listen to this and to say, that wouldn't work for me, right? So my personal experience when I came in to see you was I was under a lot of stress at the time, and I warned you that. I was like, this won't work. I'm under so much stress. One of the first things that I felt, it was very relaxing. And in the state that I was in, it was hard for me to relax, so it was great that I was able to do that. But I felt like I was going to throw up, and I didn't tell you during because I wanted to play it out and see what would happen, and I didn't. But there were moments when I was like, I'm actually going to throw up right now, and that was, I asked you what that was.
Yeah, it was your body's response. It can happen. People can be uncomfortable on the table. Normally, I like them to tell me because then I can help them with it and we can change it up.
I know. See what was going on. Yeah.
But yeah, that was just a response your body had to the releasing of electromagnetics of the thought, feeling, or emotion that was associated with the bar I was running.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that may not make a lot of sense to people, but each bar, when we do that, has a thought, feeling, or emotion that's attached to it. So depending on how comfortable your body wants to be in letting it go, because we can, you know, the body can say, yeah, let's let this go, and other parts of our mind or our brain can say, no, this helps me, I'm going to hold on to this.
Yeah. Well, we have just over a minute left. I want to make sure that I say I did go home that day and I had a ton of energy. I went for a run, I wrote an article. I had the most energy I'd had in a long time.
Awesome.
So that whatever that pukey feeling was that I had helped me release whatever I needed to release. With just about 45 seconds left, this means something to you, these flowers here.
It does. These are the flowers that represent when I was young and when I arrived on this earth. This is where I spent most of my life, not feeling worthy of being here and not wishing to be here. And here I am today.
A beautiful rose.
Yes.
Yes. So we have 30 seconds left now. We can go to KarenLeslie.ca to find out more information. How long do we expect to have to commit to this to see change?
It's very different. 2 sessions can make a world of difference. Some people will see me for a year.
And is it expensive? Financially, is it a big commitment?
I don't think so.
No, it's worth it. It's your life.
It's very worth it.
Yeah.
Everything that affects here up is going to affect from the shoulders down. So it's where's your priority.
Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you so much for having me.
Again, you can head to KarenLeslie.ca. We'll see you after the break.